Good morning, everyone. Today, I'd like to welcome Nigel Broomham, the CEO of Battery Age Minerals with ASX ticker code BM8, Bravo Mike 8. With over 14 years in the mining industry and leadership roles at lithium producers like Pilbara Minerals, Nigel now guides battery age exploration and development of battery metals such as lithium and germanium. Nigel is here today to talk to us about their projects at Falcon Lake and Blyberg, alongside their strategic minerals portfolio for the clean energy future. Welcome, Nigel. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, look, Nigel, I'd like to just jump right in. And I have some questions for you alongside with our viewers. So, for those new to Battery Age Minerals, can you please provide for me a brief overview of the company and its core focus areas?
Yeah, sure. Battery Age Minerals is an ASX listed exploration company focused on some of the world's most strategic and important commodities. So that's represented in lithium, germanium, and gold, just to name a few. And we're active in three jurisdictions, so Canada, Austria, and Argentina. And our approach is technical and disciplined. So we're targeting minerals that sit at the heart of the global energy transition and broader critical minerals demand.
Fantastic. Look, I'm very curious at the moment. Maybe we can discuss it later, but I'm very curious, given lithium's pricing at the moment, has that shifted Battery Age's focus onto the other minerals at the moment?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, and we've guided the market accordingly. Look, yeah, lithium sentiment is where it is at the moment. Everyone's very well aware of that piece. However, we believe our Falcon Lake lithium asset, which we've produced some extremely good results out of, is well placed to pick back up when the market does turn.
Tremendous. Well, look, Battery Age has a diversified portfolio across critical minerals. Could you please highlight the main projects currently under development?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're advancing three cornerstone projects, and we believe we are at the intersection of three global megatrends. They're represented by in Canada, we've got the Falcon Lake lithium project, which we just spoke to. Drilling has continued to define thick, high grades spodumene-bearing pegmatites, across a broad corridor there. In Austria, our Blyberg project is a globally significant past producing operation for lead and zinc, but also at the time of its closure, it was also one of the largest producers of germanium concentrate globally. We're on plan to drill that in the coming months. And in Argentina, we began unlocking the potential of the Elagila gold and silver asset. And that's, returned some exceptional grades near surface, and it's across a kilometre scale system.
Excellent. Could you please expand a little bit more, I guess, being Australian, a little bit more about the Falcon Lake project, and then we'll touch on Blyberg because obviously that's based in Austria, and I think you were only recently there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I just during March I was back in Austria again on site, and also went through our new project in Argentina as well, down in Santa Cruz province.
Excellent. I mean, look, let's really discuss the Blyberg project in Austria. I mean, what really makes this project significant, particularly concerning germanium and gallium?
Yeah, Blyberg's a standout. It's got a rich mining history. In fact, it was mined for over 700 years. I'll say that again, 700 years.
Wow.
And it closed in the early 90s due to declining base metals pricing. And also a decision by the state-run mining company as a political decision to shut down a number of their mines in Austria. But what we do know is that at the time of its closure in the early 90s, it was producing some exceptional grades on site. And in fact, we've rediscovered some historic concentrate samples. There were up to over 1,500 grams a tonne germanium. This is globally significant. And the zinc that they're producing on site through simple flotation was 60% and above as well. So they didn't shut down due to a lack of ore. It was more a sign of the times. We're extremely keen to go test the system in the next couple of months, where we believe we'll begin to start testing what we believe are some of the most compelling critical minerals targets in Europe.
Excellent. And look, I'm very curious. I mean, obviously, given the geography, that the difference between where you're based in Perth and in Austria, I mean, how does the team respond? I mean, who have you actually got on the ground there? More curious to actually, to be your arms and your legs in a jurisdiction that's so far away.
Yeah, no, great question. Look, wherever we conduct ourselves in multiple jurisdictions, we lean on the relationships that we build in the area. So extremely fortunate in Austria to have a very competent man on the ground there. He's actually born and raised in Blyberg, mining engineer by trade, and he supports us really really well on the ground there.
Mhm.
We also have Dr. Simon Dorling, who's a German geologist, but world sort of expert in these sort of systems as well, who's ably supported me there during multiple field visits. So yeah, we really do lean on these relationships which we built, and they're critical for our success in the region.
And for those who aren't familiar, like how, I guess, how good is it of a mining jurisdiction is Austria in comparison to, let's say, Australia and Canada?
Yeah, look, it's a lot different. I think often Australians don't think of Europe as a mining jurisdiction, but I think we often forget that they pretty much invented mining, right? So there is a rich mining history, although not much in recent times, and that is true. However, there is a process, and there is a process to follow as far as permitting, access, and approvals.
Mhm.
That's laid out quite clearly, and that's what we've been ticking through and progressing.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And look, many investors here may not actually be familiar with germanium. Um, uh, is it considered a strategic metal, and what are its primary applications?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a conversation I often have. Germanium is a critical mineral. It's on everyone's critical minerals list. So the EU, US, India, Japan, Australia on everyone's. Unlike the airtime which antimony and gallium are now having,
Mhm.
germanium sits on the same list. However, it hasn't been getting the same airplay as yet, but we believe it will. Um, and that's because it is an elite semiconductor. So think anything that requires high processing capabilities like quantum computing, infrared optics, satellite solar cells, fiber optics, and a range of defense technologies. In fact, it's used in anything that requires high processing capabilities, even running your car. These are the type of chips that germanium goes into. So what makes it so strategic now is that global supply is extremely limited. Historically, China has produced, up and over 98% of any of the new metal units that are introduced to the global supply chain.
Mhm.
So with China, most recently sanctioning the export of this metal, look, Western markets are scrambling to secure their own supply chains. And assets like Blyberg, we believe, will become incredibly important.
And just for our knowledge, what are we talking about in terms of the retail um, uh, price per ton, or how is it actually measured with germanium?
Yeah, look, the prices have moved significantly off the
Mhm.
back of this piece. I haven't checked today, but I think it's about 17,000 Chinese yen per kilo. It's roughly equated to about 5 grams a ton of gold, would be the rough calculations on today's pricing, without checking it today. So it's extremely valuable, obviously measured by the kilo. And there's just not many other assets out there. So we believe that will continue to go upwards. The Taiwanese Semiconductor Manufacturing Company have put out forecasts which basically say that the application of these type of chips, the germanium chips, the applications of them will broaden, and the amount of it used within the chips will also increase. So as the world continues to advance technology and we continue to crunch bigger and bigger data, the use of semiconductors, as elite as germanium becomes incredibly crucial, and we see no signs of this slowing down.
And does this also lean into the AI revolution that we're going through as well? I mean, we talk all about the energy transition,
Absolutely.
but at the heart of it, also there is there's a technological revolution going on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if you think AI and any future-facing, tech space, they'll be supported by metals like germanium. So, and you'd be hard pressed to find other deposits in the Western world which have had a history of producing germanium concentrate. So that's why this is so special.
Excellent. And look, I think we touched on it very briefly. I guess you said that the price has completely accelerated in the past 6 months. I mean, how has that evolved? And what is really driving the trend outside of the geopolitical risks that we've got going on between China and the US and the rest of the greater world?
Yeah, yeah. Look, the geopolitical risk is obviously the major driver, right? So,
Mhm.
with China sanctioning the exports, which means they've fully controlled the exports, then there's basically no new metal units being introduced to the supply chain. So, at the moment, you'll see for the interim, the US and the EU will be what we believe they'll be relying on recycling only. However, if we look at the forecasts. Amounts that will be needed for the global supply, then simply recycling cannot keep up with that, and there will need to be a source, sustainably sourced, source of this rare metal. So we believe we're perfectly placed geographically, right there in smack bang in the middle of the EU, and would love to be part of that story.
Tremendous. Now let's turn to Canada. Look, the Falcon Lake lithium project has shown promising drill results. I mean, what are the key takeaways from your recent work?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, as we talked about and we touched on before, lithium sentiment is where it is, but the work that we've done in Canada and the results that we've produced have been exceptional. So Falcon Lake has definitely delivered. We've had multiple intercepts over 50 meters, including 54.1 meters at 1.74% from our most recent drilling campaign.
Hmm.
And look, that's a standout in any peer comparison. So another important factor is that mineralization essentially starts from surface or near surface and remains open along strike and depth across a multitude of our targets. There's a real growing footprint there. The team on the ground in our first year, we proved up 5 kilometers of lithium-bearing, spodumene-bearing pegmatites. That scale is important. We believe there's real scale potential. And as the lithium market begins to stabilize and rebuild and eventually rebound, we believe will reward quality projects, and we're well placed to benefit from that resurgence.
Excellent. And again, I guess where I'm coming from is you've also got another team in Canada specifically on the Falcon Lake lithium project.
No, not at the moment. We don't. Look, we
Okay.
run pretty lean. We
Yep.
do as much work as we can ourselves. Exploration manager Nick Mitchell, who is based in Canada, is currently on our Argentinian asset.
Hmm.
So at the moment, the Falcon Lake project is, we're saving our capital to deploy on our other projects at the moment. However,
Hmm.
it's, all of our tenure is in good standing for a number of years, and we are ready whenever the market sentiment returns to pull that lever to turn it back on. We've still got about 20 of our targets untested with the drill bit. So we've got drilling lined up for days and plenty of work to do. However, we're not going to deploy that capital in the lithium space until the market will support it.
Smart move. Well, look, in Argentina, and look, I'm being very careful in case I say it wrong. The El Aguila Gold Silver Project has delivered some exceptional high grade results. What's the next steps here? And did I say that correct?
Yeah, you've done better than I. So well done. Yeah, look, it's shaping up as a very exciting opportunity. As we put into the market, historical exploration across the projects delivered some exceptional results,
Hmm.
including up to 175 grams a ton gold, and over 4,700 grams a ton silver. That's some of the surface samples.
Hmm.
Drill intercepts we've got there, grades of over 40 grams a ton, and broader intercepts at 22 meters at around a gram. The system is extensive. That's first takeaway I had from visiting the project. The surface expression of this mineralized system is huge. It's kilometre scale, and it really blew me away. So, we're talking multiple kilometres of mineralization trend, and it's largely untapped and underexplored. So we've just completed geophysical surveys and surface geochemistry. So the teams have just demobbed that have completed that work. That will all lead into further refining more drill targets ahead of a maiden drill campaign, and we're targeting to be doing that in Q3 of the calendar year. So yeah, plenty of work to be done there, and plenty of news to come out.
And from my understanding, you were recently on the ground in Argentina. You flew 35 hours to do a site visit. Is that correct?
That's pretty correct. Yeah, I wonder who told you that. No, that's correct. It was part of my league to get around to Hong Kong for a conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did about a 35-hour transit to get into Hong Kong from down in the Santa Cruz province in Argentina. That's right. Yeah.
And look, tell us a little bit more, because this is, Argentina again. What is the jurisdiction like there? I mean, in
Mm.
a way, our investors, they're thinking you've actually got three different primary jurisdictions. You're dealing with Canada, you're obviously dealing with Austria, now you're dealing with Argentina. How do you manage all of those competing? You're looking at, political, geopolitical, and legal minefield that you have to navigate.
Yeah, look, absolutely. As mentioned, the Canadian assets at the moment are currently on hold, so it leaves our attention with Austria and Argentina.
Mhm.
Once again, we've got made some incredibly good friends and knowledgeable friends within each jurisdiction that I lean on. And we've got a great team on the ground in Argentina itself as well. So it's located down in the Santa Cruz province, that's in southern Patagonia. As far as geographically, the area is fantastic to explore. It's flat lying, it's dry, there's little to no vegetation. More recently, it's been well publicised, the changes in federal and now in provincial governments as well, which are now inviting more foreign investment in and really trying to kickstart exploration investment within the region. Santa Cruz itself is a rich gold and silver mining jurisdiction. It's the number one employer of people within the province. However, in the last 15, 20 years, there's been little to no money spent in exploration. So these active mines, their reserves have been depleting. And I met with the Secretary of Mining whilst I was just on my visit, and she's incredibly keen to have companies like Battery Age investing in the ground to prove up, and find some more ounces to support that industry. So, look, we're very well received and very, very happy to be and privileged to be working in the area.
Excellent. And look, I guess for the next 6 months, what type of news flow can we be expecting from your team over the next 6 months with these two key projects that you're working on?
Yeah, we think these next 6 months could be really transformative for the company.
Mhm.
Obviously, we've got our current market cap is between 6 and 7 million at the moment. We see plenty of upside from that. So the next 6 months for us, we want to be drilling essentially both these projects. So we'll have a main drill campaign in Blyberg and then be drilling in our Argentinian asset as well. So a steady run of news flow and a real chance for investors to come in at the ground floor
Mhm.
for what we believe could be some very significant discoveries.
Tremendous. And with regards to obviously your academic background and your previous experience in mining, could you just elaborate a little bit more about how you can bring those disciplines now leading this company actually into the next phase?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm a geologist by background, studied at the University of Western Australia, and passionate about exploration and the mining sector. So, I'll just talk to my job that I came from prior to this, and that was at Pilbara Minerals.
Mhm.
Extremely fortunate to join the team there at the start of 2017, and was part of the exploration team there, essentially
Right.
senior person on site. And had the amazing opportunity of leading that team from exploration through to production and beyond. And I was there for 6 years and got to see the ups, downs, and ups again of not only the lithium market but the operation itself. So, extremely privileged to be part of that growth story. And I want to go do that again. I want to find and build an asset and bring it into production and reward value to shareholders. So Really, really keen to focus. I always like to focus on the fundamentals of exploration, and essentially unlock the potential of the assets, and that's what we're focused on.
Thank you, Nigel. We're in good hands. Well, look, my final question here is your current market cap sits around 6 to 7 million Australian dollars. I mean, what would you say to investors right now who are listening today about the value opportunity in battery age minerals?
Yeah, look, I might be biased here, but I think we
You have
are
to be.
one of
You
the
have to.
most, yeah, I think we are one of the most undervalued critical minerals explorers on the ASX,
Yep.
hands down. I think even if I wasn't biased, that's an accurate statement. We're active across, multiple high quality jurisdictions,
Mhm.
targeted strategic commodities with growing demand. And we're not just sitting on our hands. We're not just sitting on these tenements. We've been out there actively advancing them. We've got high-grade results already in hand from all the projects. We've got a real strong pipeline of news flow ahead for these next 6 months, and genuinely believe that BM8 offers a rare opportunity to get in on the ground floor now of what could be some very significant discoveries. And we're focused on that. We think we've done the groundwork now, and really excited for these next 6-12 months.
Excellent, thank you. Well, look, Nigel, as always, if any of our members or viewers or our investors have any questions, I invite them to email us info@sharesinvalue.com.au or info@eastcoastresearch.com.au, and we'll forward them on through to your team, your lean team, and you'll respond accordingly.
Absolutely, yeah. I look forward to seeing those for sure.
Tremendous, thank you so much. I'll see you very soon, probably in 6 months, Nigel.
Yep, look forward to it.